for his investigations into Russian ties with the Trump campaign. This anonymous source said that Comey was asking for this right before he was fired.
Right.
What we found out later is it is not true. Now, that story was on the front page of the New York Times, A1 above the fold. How do we ever get that back? There is no correction. Reporters don't admit that that was wrong. They just go on. There are literally no consequences to what we've seen. So I think what we've got to do is we've got to deal with these anonymous sources. They need to be ferreted out. We need to figure out where they are, and these people need to be fired or prosecuted if they're leaking classified information, because it is not correct, it's not right, it's not helpful to our democracy if we're having people leak for partisan issues. Charles, they are not whistleblowers, these people. They are not speaking truth to power. They are literally doing this because they have an interest in the 2020 election. That's partisan politics inside our intel agencies. The media are not going to call these people out. The media want to see this happen. They thrive on leaks. And so I think what we have to do in the public is we have to demand that our regulators in Congress and the Trump administration figure out who these leakers are and prosecute them and fire them.
Rick, I agree 1,000%. I want to bring in two additional panelists here, Payne and Adriana Cohen, two strong critics of media bias. Adriana, you in fact wrote an article, I think earlier this week, on just to Rick's point, the magnitude of what we're starting to see right now.
Exactly. Yesterday, I wrote a column in the Boston Herald. It was our front page splash talking about media bias, how we have never in American history seen such a venomous media go after a sitting president. And the new Harvard study that's just been released reaffirms what I stated in my column, that President Trump is not getting fair and neutral coverage. And I think what is happening, Charles, is that, in the good old days of journalism, journalists were politically neutral, and they reported stories based on facts. That is long gone now, for the most part. There are so many mainstream media journalists who are actually political operatives, and they are not covering the news fairly. I mean, look at how many times President Trump has had a success that they don't cover. But then they manufacture crises after crises after crises. As Richard pointed out, a lot of these stories aren't even true, and they try to create this false perception that there's chaos in his administration when it's not true.
And to your point, Adriana, I just want to bring this up.
It's terribly unfair, and it hurts our country because all
Adriana,
Americans,
let me bring this up, though, for the audience, because you just
our president to solve our country's problems.
You just hit on a good point, great point. We got to bring this up because every day now, it seems this week, there's been a 5 o'clock bombshell. It happened today around 3:30. Two bombshells, one from the Washington Post, one from the New York Times, forcing Spicer to put out a communique that more or less said, listen, guys, we're focused on real issues here. But Bree, this is what the White House is dealing with almost on a daily basis. These are timed to catch the evening news cycle. They're timed to catch the White House off guard, and they have been successful in that regard.
Yeah, you're completely right. And I don't know about you, but I am sick of bombshell after bombshell that are only to be, disregarded later on and told that the leakers and the unnamed sources who were supposedly feeding them all this information ended up kind of not being true. I mean, we saw this played out earlier this week when the media was doubling down and insisting that Donald Trump leaked classified information to top Russian officials during a meeting earlier this month. Top intel officials have unequivocally denied that, yet the media has still kind of been a little bit snarky in how they're covering this. And I think, just in that study, there was some figures about the way that the media has been covering the Donald Trump presidency. As you said, 98% of it's been negative, whereas I think only like 30 or 40% of it was negative about President Obama. And, all throughout Obama's tenure and all throughout his presidency, his administration would leak classified information all the time, and the media didn't care. So I think this double standard really shows that, the media isn't about holding those in power accountable. This isn't about telling the truth. This is about pushing a partisan agenda.
The day and age of the bipartisan media, even trying to be bipartisan, is long gone, guys. Thanks a lot. Now, of course, it's been months, and so far, no evidence. Yet Democrats today calling for an independent commission to investigate the Trump administration. So if this is not a witch hunt, I tell you what, it certainly is piling on.